Before you were born, where were you? Most people either reach for a religious answer, heaven, a waiting place, a previous life, or dismiss the question entirely, too philosophical, unanswerable, move on. Both responses are too fast, because science can answer part of this question, precisely, rigorously, in ways that are more extraordinary than most answers people reach for. And where science runs out, it runs out honestly, in a way that makes the remaining mysteries sharper, not softer. So let's actually follow the question all the way. Start with the most concrete version. Where was the matter that makes you? You are made of atoms. Right now, sitting here, you are approximately 7 billion atoms, mostly hydrogen, oxygen, carbon, nitrogen. Those atoms exist. They have histories. Before they were in you, they were somewhere else. The carbon in your cells, every carbon atom in your body, has a history that goes back further than Earth. Carbon isn't made on planets, it's made in stars, specifically in the cores of stars massive enough that their gravity can force helium nuclei together into carbon. That process, stellar nucleosynthesis, built most of the carbon in the universe over billions of years. The carbon that is currently in your cells was forged in a star that exploded before the solar system existed. The explosion scattered it into space. It drifted. It became part of the nebula that collapsed to form the Sun and the planets. It became part of Earth's early chemistry. It cycled through oceans, through early organisms, through millions of years of biological evolution, through the food chain that eventually led to you. The iron in your blood was synthesized in a supernova, a stellar explosion so energetic it briefly outshines an entire galaxy. The calcium in your bones, the phosphorus in your DNA, the oxygen in every breath, all of it built in stellar processes that occurred billions of years before Earth formed. You are not made of Earth. You are made of dead stars. And before you were born, the matter that is now you was scattered across geological time, across the bodies of organisms that lived and died long before your species existed, across the atmosphere and the ocean and the soil. Before you were a person, your components were everywhere, and they'd been everywhere for billions of years. That's the physical answer, and it's genuinely extraordinary. But it's not the whole question, because here's something that stops you cold when you think about it carefully. The matter existed, but the specific arrangement of matter that is you, that specific combination, was extraordinarily unlikely. Your existence required a specific sperm to fertilize a specific egg. Out of hundreds of millions of sperm produced in a single event, one specific cell had to reach one specific egg at one specific moment. Your parents had to meet, which required a specific chain of events, decisions, migrations. Their parents had to meet. Every single ancestor in your lineage, going back millions of generations, had to survive long enough to reproduce, had to escape the predator, survive the disease, find the food, find the mate. Any single break in that chain, one ancestor who died a week too early, one migration that went a different direction, one encounter that didn't happen, and the specific combination of genetic material that produces you never forms. You don't get born slightly different. You don't get born at all. A different person might, but not you. The probability of your specific existence, traced across all the contingencies that had to align across millions of years, is so close to zero, it's essentially indistinguishable from impossible. You are a nearly impossible arrangement of star stuff that has never existed before and will never exist again. That's not poetry, that's mathematics applied to contingency. Now, when did you start? The instinctive answer is conception, the moment sperm meets egg. But biology immediately complicates this. For the first 2 weeks after fertilization, the cells dividing don't have fixed individual identity. Identical twins can still split during this period, one fertilized egg becoming 2 separate people. Embryos can fuse, 2 fertilized eggs merging into one person. There is no nervous system, no brain, no capacity for experience of any kind. The cells are human. They have your DNA. But in what sense are they you? The structures that make you you, a nervous system, a brain capable of processing information, a body with continuity of experience across time, develop gradually, over months. And they don't switch on all at once. They build, neuron by neuron, connection by connection. There is no single moment biology can point to and say, here is precisely where this person began. The beginning is a process, not an event. And that process raises a question biology can't answer alone. If there's no clear moment when you started, was there a clear moment before which you definitely weren't? Here's what neuroscience can tell us. Somewhere in fetal development, something changes that matters. The nervous system forms, neurons connect. The thalamo-cortical connections, the circuits considered necessary by most neuroscientists for conscious experience, begin forming around 24 to 28 weeks of gestation. Before that point, there's no architecture for experience, no substrate for there to be something it feels like to be you. Whatever you are as an experiencing subject, you require a functioning nervous system. That's not a philosophical claim, that's an empirical one. Destroy the relevant brain structures in an adult, and the experience disappears. They were never present in an early embryo. So before the nervous system formed, there was no experiencer. The matter was there, the process was running, but the particular thing that looks back and asks, where was I before I was born? That thing wasn't there yet, which forces the question underneath the question. What do you mean by you? If you mean your atoms, they were in stars, in ancient seas, in other organisms. That's answerable. If you mean your DNA, half was in your father's cells, half in your mother's, waiting to combine. Answerable. If you mean your body, it didn't exist yet, but its components did. Answerable. But if you mean the thing that has experiences, the thing for whom there is a what it's like to be alive, that's entirely different. And science doesn't have a complete account of what that thing is, or how it arises from matter, or whether it exists only while the brain that generates it is running. The question, where were you before you were born, quietly becomes the hardest question in science. What are you at all? Physics has something precise to add here, and it's counterintuitive. In quantum mechanics, particles of the same type aren't just similar, they're identical. Not as individuals with histories, but as indistinguishable instances of a type. There's no difference between one electron and another. They don't have serial numbers, they don't have pasts that distinguish them. The atoms in your body have no permanent individual identity. They cycle through you. The atoms in your brain right now were not there 7 years ago. They'll be gone in another 7. The physical stuff is constantly being replaced. You're more like a wave than an object, a stable pattern moving through matter rather than a fixed collection of matter. If you are your atoms, you are constantly dying and being replaced. If you're not your atoms, what are you? What is the thing that persists? Physics forces you to face that the intuitive sense of being a continuous, persistent self, the same person you were 10 years ago, the same person who woke up this morning, is not something that exists clearly in the physical description of the world. It's something the brain constructs, a narrative it maintains. And a constructed identity has a very different relationship to before than a physical object does. There's a philosophical argument that's 2,000 years old and still hasn't been answered. Epicurus, the Greek philosopher, made it with unusual clarity. He said, "The state of non-existence before birth should be symmetric with the state of non-existence after death. If you're not disturbed by where you were before you were born, and most people aren't, then by the same logic you shouldn't be disturbed by the non-existence after death. Before birth, no experience of absence, not darkness. Darkness is something. Darkness can be experienced. Not waiting. Waiting requires a subject to be waiting. Simply not. No experiencer, no perspective, no duration that felt like anything from the inside. That's what before birth is. And according to Epicurus, and the logic is hard to refute, that's what after death is. The same state. Viewed from the outside, from within a living brain, the two look different. Before birth is in the past, death is in the future. But the states themselves, the non-experiential states, are identical. There's no subject in either one to experience anything. The asymmetry we feel between them isn't a feature of the states, it's a feature of the brain that's currently alive, looking in two directions from the inside of its own existence. Now go further back, further than biology. The matter that became you has been part of this universe for 13.8 billion years. It has been inside stars, inside planets, inside early oceans, inside organisms that preceded multicellular life. It has participated in every stage of cosmic evolution since the Big Bang. The hydrogen in the water in your cells has been hydrogen since the first minutes after the Big Bang. It was among the first matter to form when the universe cooled enough for protons and electrons to combine. That hydrogen, in you right now, is nearly 14 billion years old. It has been part of nebulae, stars, planets, oceans, living organisms. It has been in more places and more forms than any history could capture. In a real physical sense, before you were born is not nothing. It's 13.8 billion years of cosmic history that built, piece by piece, the specific arrangement of matter that is you. You didn't come from nowhere, you came from everything, from the entire history of the universe, converging over billions of years into this one specific configuration. That configuration is temporary, you know that. The atoms will disperse again. They'll go back into the world, into the soil, into the atmosphere, into other organisms. The arrangement that is you will dissolve back into the universe from which it came. But here's what stays with me. After all of that, the stellar nucleosynthesis, the biological contingency, the neuroscience of when experience begins, the physics of identity, the Epicurean symmetry, the cosmological history, there's still something left unanswered. Where was the experiencer? Not the matter, not the DNA, not the nervous system before it was conscious. The thing that has a perspective, the thing that feels what it's like to be you, the thing that is, right now, reading these words and thinking about all of this. If that thing arises entirely from brain activity, and the evidence strongly suggests that's the case, then before the brain existed, it wasn't anywhere. It didn't exist as an experiencer. There was no you in any meaningful sense of the word. That answer is honest. It's consistent with everything we know, and it should be enough. But it leaves open the deepest question, the one that doesn't close. What is that thing, the experiencer, exactly? Is it entirely produced by the brain, beginning when the brain begins and ending when the brain ends? Or is there something about the fact that there's something it's like to be you, something about experience itself, that the current scientific picture doesn't fully capture? We don't know. I don't know. Nobody does. And I think the only honest position is to say so clearly, without reaching for comfort, without closing the question before it's been answered, without filling the remaining space with a certainty that isn't there. Before you were born, your atoms were in stars. Your contingent existence was almost impossible, and happened anyway. Your experience began somewhere in fetal development, when the architecture for it finally existed. And before that, whatever you are as an experiencing being wasn't anywhere. The universe existed for 13.8 billion years before you arrived. It built everything it needed to build, over all that time, to produce the specific configuration that is you. You showed up for a moment, aware, capable of looking back at all of that and asking, where was I before this? The fact that you can ask it is the most extraordinary part of the answer.